"Hey, Dad, that's my sister," said the girl to the millionaire father when she saw the girl in a wheelchair begging on the street. "Before we start, I love seeing this community grow. Feel free to introduce yourself below." The autumn wind whipped through downtown Chicago as David Morgan adjusted his coat collar, walking briskly alongside his 7-year-old daughter Emma. At 42, the renowned financial executive had built an empire from scratch, but nothing in his boardroom experience had prepared him for single fatherhood. 6 years had passed since Sarah's death, yet he still caught himself looking for her familiar smile in crowds. "Daddy, slow down." Emma tugged at his hand, her small legs struggling to match his determined pace. David paused, realizing he'd been walking as if fleeing from ghosts that seemed to follow him everywhere. "Sorry, sweetheart, we're almost—" "Wait!" Emma suddenly stopped, her blue-green eyes, so remarkably like her mother's, fixed on something across the street. "Daddy, look!" Following her gaze, David saw a young girl in a wheelchair positioned near the corner, a cardboard sign propped against her lap. Even from this distance, something about the child struck him as oddly familiar. "She looks just like me," Emma whispered, her voice filled with wonder. David's breath caught in his throat. The girl did indeed share Emma's distinctive blonde hair, and those same unusual blue-green eyes that had been Sarah's most striking feature. As they drew closer, the resemblance became undeniable. "Daddy," Emma said with the matter-of-fact certainty that only children possess. "That's my sister." The words hit David like a physical blow. Sister? Impossible. Yet as he stared at the girl, who couldn't be older than 7, his mind began racing through calculations that made his stomach churn. The girl looked up as they approached, her eyes reflecting a wisdom far beyond her years, hardened by experiences no child should endure. "What's your name, sweetheart?" David asked gently, kneeling to her level. "Lily," she replied cautiously. "Lily Williams." Williams. The name exploded in David's memory like a forgotten bomb. Catherine Williams, Sarah's private nurse who had stayed with them for months after the funeral, then vanished without explanation almost 8 years ago. "Where's your mother, Lily?" David's voice barely concealed his growing dread. "She died 3 months ago," Lily answered simply, as if discussing the weather. "Pneumonia. The doctors said it was treatable, but—" She shrugged with heartbreaking resignation. David's world tilted on its axis. 8 years ago, drowning in grief and alcohol, he'd made choices he barely remembered. And now, staring into eyes that mirrored his daughter's and his late wife's, he realized those forgotten nights might have consequences he'd never imagined. "How old are you, Lily?" 7. Same as her. She nodded toward Emma, who was studying her with intense fascination. Emma stepped forward boldly. "I knew it. You're my sister, I can feel it." As the Chicago wind swirled around them, David Morgan faced a revelation that would shatter everything he thought he knew about his life, and force him to confront the possibility that his greatest failure might also be his path to redemption. The encounter with Lily haunted David throughout the sleepless night. As dawn broke over his Lakeshore Drive mansion, he found himself in his study, surrounded by dusty filing cabinets he hadn't touched in years. Somewhere in these papers lay the truth about Catherine Williams. Emma appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas. "Daddy, did you find anything about my sister?" "I'm still looking, sweetheart." David's hands trembled slightly as he pulled out employee records from 8 years ago. "Why don't you have breakfast with Mrs. Henderson?" After Emma reluctantly left, David finally located Catherine's file. The termination notice, dated exactly 7 years and 9 months ago, bore Rachel Winters' signature, his executive assistant who had handled all household staff during his darkest period. The reason for dismissal: inappropriate behavior and boundary violations. David's blood ran cold. He remembered nothing about Catherine's dismissal. Those months after Sarah's death remained a blur of grief, alcohol, and barely controlled rage against the world. His phone buzzed. "Walter speaking, sir." "Walter, I need to ask you something important." David paused, gathering courage. Do you remember Catherine Williams, Sarah's nurse? A long silence followed. Mr. Morgan, are you sure you want to discuss this? I need to know everything, Walter. Everything. The loyal driver, who had served the Morgan family for 15 years, sighed heavily. Miss Catherine came to the office many times after her dismissal, sir. She tried to see you, but Miss Winters always turned her away. Said you didn't want to be disturbed with personal matters while rebuilding your life. David's grip tightened on the phone. How many times? For nearly 2 years, sir. Sometimes she waited outside the building for hours. Once I saw her in the rain holding what looked like letters. Miss Winters called security when she tried to enter the lobby. The room seemed to spin around David. Did she ever say why she needed to see me? She mentioned something urgent she needed to tell you. Miss Winters insisted you were romantically involved with her and didn't want any reminders of the past. David's hand slammed against the desk. Rachel had systematically blocked Catherine from reaching him, spinning lies about his intentions. If Catherine had been trying to tell him about Lily. Walter, I need you to find Catherine Williams' last known address. Immediately. Sir, there's something else. Walter's voice grew heavy with regret. Miss Catherine had a baby with her during those visits, a little girl who looked remarkably like Miss Emma. The phone slipped from David's hand as the full weight of his failure crashed down upon him. For nearly 8 years, his daughter had lived in poverty while he remained oblivious, protected by the lies of someone he trusted. Rachel Winters had stolen more than just correspondence. She had stolen his chance to know his child, to save Catherine from the desperation that ultimately killed her. David's assistant buzzed in. Mr. Morgan, Miss Winters is here for the morning briefing. Cancel it, David replied coldly, and cancel everything else. I have a daughter to find. As he prepared to confront Rachel and then locate Lily, one thought echoed through his mind. How many precious moments had been lost? And could he ever make amends for the years of abandonment that weren't truly his choice? The truth was emerging, but with it came a devastating realization of just how much damage one person's jealousy could inflict on innocent lives. David's hands shook as he stood before the weathered apartment building in one of Chicago's forgotten neighborhoods. The address Walter had found led him to a world away from his lakeshore mansion, cracked sidewalks, boarded windows, and the lingering scent of desperation. Apartment 2B. He knocked gently. An elderly Hispanic woman answered, her eyes immediately wary. You're not from social services, are you? No, ma'am. I'm looking for information about Catherine Williams. I believe she lived here with her daughter. The woman's expression softened with recognition and sorrow. Ah, Catherine. Such a good woman. You must be him, the father she spoke about. David's heart hammered. You knew about me? Soy Elena Martinez. Catherine was my neighbor, my friend. She gestured him inside her modest apartment. When she got sick, she made me promise to watch over Lily. But I'm 72 and my social security barely covers my own expenses. Elena's living room was sparse but clean. On the coffee table sat a framed photo of Catherine and Lily, the little girl beaming despite the shabby surroundings. Catherine tried so hard to reach you, Elena continued, her voice heavy with memory. She showed me letters she wrote but never sent, pictures of you from newspapers. She said people at your company wouldn't let her see you. I never knew she was trying to contact me, David whispered, guilt crushing his chest. Elena studied his face carefully, then made a decision. Wait here. She disappeared into her bedroom and returned with a weatherproof metal box. Catherine gave me this before she died. Said if anything happened to her and if you ever came looking, I should give it to you. With trembling fingers, David opened the box. Inside lay a treasure trove of Lily's life. Ultrasound photos, hospital bracelets, first steps captured on blurry smartphone videos, report cards showing exceptional grades despite constant school changes. At the bottom, a USB drive labeled, "For David, the truth about our daughter." Elena's old laptop revealed Catherine's final message. On the screen, a gaunt but determined Catherine looked directly into the camera. David, if you're watching this, it means fate finally brought you to our daughter. I never blamed you for not knowing. I tried everything to reach you, but your people, they protected you from me. Lily has your intelligence and my stubbornness. She'll need both. Catherine's image coughed violently before continuing. The doctors say her hip condition could have been corrected easily if we'd caught it early. I did my best with what I had, but... Her voice broke. She's been asking about you since she could speak. I told her you were a good man who didn't know. She existed. Please don't make me a liar. The video ended with Catherine's gentle smile. Take care of our miracle, David. She's the best of both of us. Elena wiped her eyes. That little girl goes to the streets every day, trying to earn money, so she won't be a burden to me. She uses the wheelchair from a charity because walking is too painful, but she refuses to complain. David's voice came out as a rasp. Where is she now? Same corner where she met you yesterday. She said she needed to go back, that maybe her father would look for her there. The realization hit David like lightning. Lily had returned to that street corner not to beg, but hoping he would come back for her. Standing abruptly, David clutched the metal box to his chest. Mrs. Martinez, would you help me bring my daughter home? The elderly woman's face lit up with the first genuine smile David had seen since arriving. I've been praying for this day since Catherine died. As they headed toward downtown Chicago, David knew his life was about to change forever. But this time he wouldn't let anyone stand between him and his daughter. David found Lily exactly where Elena predicted, at the same downtown corner, her small cardboard sign reading, "Please help. God bless." But this time, something was different. She wasn't looking at passers-by. Her eyes kept scanning the crowd as if searching for someone specific. When she spotted David approaching with Mrs. Martinez, her entire demeanor shifted. Hope flickered across her weathered features before being quickly suppressed by learned caution. "You came back," she whispered, barely audible above the street noise. David knelt beside her wheelchair, his heart breaking at how tiny she seemed. "Lily, I want to ask you something very important. Would you like to come home with me? Just temporarily while we figure everything out?" Her eyes darted between David and Mrs. Martinez. "You mean to your big house?" "Yes. You'd have your own room, good food, and Emma's been asking about you nonstop." For a moment, Lily's composure cracked. What if you change your mind?" Mrs. Martinez placed a gentle hand on the girl's shoulder. "Mija, this is your father. Catherine always said he was a good man. You really think I'm your daughter?" Lily's voice carried a lifetime of yearning. "I know you are," David replied firmly. "And I'm never going to let you be alone again." The ride to the mansion was silent. Lily pressed against the window, taking in neighborhoods that grew progressively more affluent. When Walter pulled into the circular driveway, her gasp was audible. "This is where my mom worked?" "Yes, sweetheart. And now it's your home too." Emma burst through the front door before they'd even stopped. "Lily, Daddy brought you home." But as they entered the grand foyer, Lily seemed to shrink into herself. The marble floors, crystal chandelier, and sweeping staircase clearly overwhelmed her. During dinner, she sat rigid in her chair, barely touching Mrs. Henderson's carefully prepared meal. Emma, with intuition beyond her years, noticed immediately. "Lily, you don't like fancy stuff, do you?" Lily shook her head, tears threatening. "Me neither sometimes," Emma announced decisively. "Daddy, can we have pizza on the living room floor instead, like an emergency picnic?" David started to protest about proper dining etiquette, but something in Emma's meaningful look stopped him. "That sounds perfect." 20 minutes later, they sat cross-legged on the Persian rug, sharing pepperoni pizza from paper plates. Lily finally relaxed enough to take a real bite. "My mom used to say pizza tastes better when you're sitting on the floor," she admitted shyly. "Smart mom," Emma replied matter-of-factly. "What else did she say?" "That fathers are like guardian angels. They watch over you even when you can't see them." Lily looked directly at David. "Did you really not know about me?" The innocent question pierced David's soul. "No, sweetheart. Someone kept your mother's messages from reaching me. But I know now, and that's what matters." Lily nodded solemnly, processing this information. Then for the first time, she asked a question that sounded like a child instead of a survival expert. Did my mom really work in this house? She took care of Emma's mom when she was very sick. David explained gently. Your mother was the kindest, most caring person I knew. That's why you loved her, Lily stated with startling clarity. The room fell silent. Emma reached over and took Lily's hand. Now we're sisters for real. Does that mean I can stay? Lily's voice was barely a whisper. David moved closer, careful not to crowd her. Lily Catherine Williams, if you'll have me, I'd like to be your father. Not just temporarily. Forever. For the first time since her mother's death, Lily smiled. A genuine, hopeful smile that transformed her entire face and gave David his first glimpse of the happy child she could still become. 3 days after Lily's arrival, David paced anxiously in Dr. Richardson's office, clutching 2 manila envelopes that would determine everything. Emma sat beside Lily in the waiting room, both girls holding hands as they watched cartoons, blissfully unaware that their future hung in the balance. Mr. Morgan, Dr. Richardson entered with a gentle smile. The DNA results are conclusive. Lily is definitely your biological daughter. Relief flooded through David so powerfully his knees nearly buckled. Thank God. There's more, the doctor continued, opening the second envelope. Dr. Peterson's orthopedic evaluation shows that while Lily's hip dysplasia has progressed due to lack of early intervention, significant improvement is still possible with surgery and intensive rehabilitation. David's voice caught. You mean she could walk normally? With proper treatment, yes. It will require multiple procedures over the next 2 years, but Dr. Peterson believes we can restore at least 80% of normal function. The sooner we begin, the better her long-term prognosis. When David returned to the waiting room, both girls looked up expectantly. He had arranged for child psychologist Dr. Bennett to be present for this conversation. Lily, David said, settling into the chair across from her. I have some news. The test confirmed what Emma already knew. You're my daughter. Lily's reaction was surprisingly calm. Mama always said my father was an important man who didn't know I existed. She never lied about anything. She paused, studying David's face. Does this mean you want to keep me? Forever, David replied without hesitation. And Dr. Peterson says we can help your legs get stronger with some surgeries. Will it hurt? Some, but you'll have the best doctors and I'll be with you every step of the way. Lily nodded with the same stoic acceptance she'd shown throughout her young life. Mama used to say I was brave like a lion. I guess I'll need to be brave like a lion again. Emma squeezed her sister's hand. I'll be brave with you. That evening, David tucked both girls into Emma's room. Lily had refused to sleep alone, and Emma had insisted they share. As he kissed them goodnight, Lily caught his hand. Can I ask you something? Anything, sweetheart. Why didn't the lady at your office let Mama talk to you? David's jaw tightened. Some people make very bad choices when they're jealous, but I promise you, no one will ever keep us apart again. Good, Lily said simply, because I've been waiting my whole life to have a daddy. After the girls fell asleep, David called his attorney. Marcus, I need to file for emergency custody and begin legal recognition of paternity, and I want to explore our options regarding Rachel Winters. David, are you certain about pursuing action against Ms. Winters? It could get messy. She cost me 7 years with my daughter and contributed to Catherine's death through her interference. I want her held accountable. I'll start the paperwork immediately. And David, that little girl is lucky to have found you. But as David stood in the doorway watching his daughters sleep, he knew the truth was exactly the opposite. After years of going through the motions of living, Lily had given him something he'd lost when Sarah died. A reason to truly live again. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Media attention, corporate scrutiny, and the beginning of Lily's medical journey. But tonight, for the first time in years, David Morgan fell asleep with hope instead of regret filling his heart. The DNA had confirmed what his heart already knew. Lily belonged here, and he would move heaven and earth to give her the life Catherine had dreamed of for their daughter. The Morgan mansion had never echoed with screams before. At 2 a.m., Lily's piercing cries shattered the silence, sending David racing down the hallway in his pajamas. He found her thrashing in Emma's bed, trapped in another nightmare about her mother's final moments. The machine stopped beeping, Lily sobbed, still half asleep. I couldn't wake her up. Emma, remarkably composed for a 7-year-old, was already stroking Lily's hair. It's okay. You're safe now. Tell the nightmare to go away. This was the 4th time this week. Dr. Bennett had warned that Lily's trauma would manifest in various ways: nightmares, regression, and an almost pathological fear of abandonment. I can't sleep in that big room alone, Lily whispered when David suggested she try her own bedroom again. What if you forget I'm here? How about I sleep in the chair next to your bed tonight? David offered. Really? Lily's eyes widened with hope and disbelief. 2 hours later, David dozed uncomfortably in the antique chair, but Lily slept peacefully for the first time since arriving. The next morning brought Lily's first physical therapy session. At Children's Memorial Hospital, she met Dr. Sarah Kim, a petite therapist with infinite patience. This might hurt a little, Lily, Dr. Kim warned as she began the assessment. I'm used to hurt, Lily replied matter-of-factly, causing the adults to exchange concerned glances. As Dr. Kim moved Lily's legs through range-of-motion exercises, tears streamed down the child's face, but she didn't make a sound. It's okay to cry out loud, sweetheart, David encouraged. You don't have to be strong all the time. Mama said crying doesn't fix anything. Lily gritted through clenched teeth. Your mama was teaching you to be brave, Dr. Kim said gently, but she would want you to let the hurt out too. Even grown-ups cry when things hurt. Do you cry? Lily asked David directly. Yes. I cried when I realized I'd missed so many years with you. For the first time, Lily allowed herself a small whimper during the exercises. That afternoon, David made a decision that shocked his board of directors. He would work from home 3 days a week to maintain consistent routines for Lily. Bennett had emphasized that reliability was crucial for a child who'd experienced profound abandonment. Breakfast at 7, dinner at 6, bedtime stories at 8, he announced to Mrs. Henderson. No exceptions, no matter what's happening at the office. Sir, his assistant called frantically that evening, the Tokyo markets are in chaos. The board needs you. Handle it remotely, David replied, watching Lily attempt to build a puzzle. I'm exactly where I need to be. Emma had appointed herself Lily's official translator, explaining her sister's needs to confused adults. She's not being rude when she doesn't answer right away, Emma informed the housekeeper. She's checking if it's safe to talk. The breakthrough came during their 3rd week together. While helping with homework, Lily suddenly looked up at David. Can I call you Daddy, or do I have to wait for the papers? David's throat constricted. You can call me whatever feels right, sweetheart. Daddy, she said tentatively, testing the word. Then stronger. Daddy. Yes? When Mama was sick, she made me promise to be good, so when you found me, you'd want to keep me. Am I being good enough? David knelt beside her chair, his vision blurring. Lily, you don't have to earn my love. You're perfect exactly as you are. You could never do anything to make me not want you. Promise? I promise. And I'm going to keep promising until you believe it. That night, for the first time, Lily reached for David's hand as he tucked her in. The small gesture represented a monumental shift, the beginning of trust that would form the foundation of their new life together. The mansion was learning to be a home again, filled with laughter, tears, and the messy beauty of a family learning to love each other through their broken places. 3 weeks into their new life together, Lily finally felt ready to share her most precious possession. With trembling hands, she presented David with a worn leather journal she'd kept hidden in her small backpack. This was Mama's diary, she whispered. She wrote in it every day about me, and about you. David accepted the journal with reverence, his hand shaking as he opened to the first entry dated 8 years ago. David doesn't know yet. I'm scared to tell him, but I know I must. He's grieving Sarah so deeply, and I don't want him to think I'm taking advantage of his vulnerability. The baby is due in 7 months. She kicks just like Emma did when I cared for Sarah. I think she's going to be strong. Page after page revealed Catherine's desperate attempts to reach him. Phone calls blocked by Rachel. Letters returned unopened. Security guards turning her away from his building. I waited outside Morgan Financial today for 4 hours. His assistant saw me through the window and called security. I just wanted 5 minutes to tell him about our daughter. I'm starting to think he really doesn't want to know. David's vision blurred as he read entry after entry, documenting Catherine's growing desperation and eventual resignation to raising Lily alone. Lily took her first steps today. She fell down but got right back up, just like her father would. I wish he could see how determined she is, how she lights up every room. Maybe someday. The most heartbreaking entries came from Lily's 5th birthday. Lily asked why her daddy never calls on her birthday. I told her maybe he was thinking about her, even without knowing. She drew a picture of all 3 of us together and asked me to save it for when he comes. My heart is breaking, but I won't let her lose hope. Carefully preserved between the pages was the crayon drawing. 3 stick figures holding hands, labeled Daddy, Mama, and Lily in a child's careful handwriting. The mine USB drive Catherine had left contained videos spanning 6 years. David watched through tears as Lily learned to crawl, speak her first words, Mama and Dada, and grow from an infant into the resilient child he'd found on that street corner. In the final video, recorded just weeks before Catherine's death, she looked directly into the camera with haunting clarity. David, if you're seeing this, then God finally answered my prayers. I never hated you for not knowing. Rachel Winters made sure of that. I just hope you can forgive yourself faster than I learned to forgive the circumstances that kept us apart. Catherine coughed violently before continuing. Lily has your analytical mind and my stubborn streak. She'll need both to overcome her challenges. Most importantly, she has a heart big enough to love despite being hurt. Don't let anyone convince you that damaged children can't be fixed with love. She's been waiting for you her whole life. The video ended with Catherine's gentle smile. Take care of our miracle, David. She's the best parts of both of us. That evening, David called Lily and Emma into his study. I want to create a special place for your mother's memories, he told Lily. What do you think about setting up a corner in your room where we can display these treasures properly? Lily's eyes brightened for the first time in weeks. Really? Like a shrine? Like a celebration? Emma corrected wisely. Mama Catherine was amazing. As they arranged Catherine's photos, letters, and mementos in Lily's room, David made a silent vow. Catherine had spent years fighting to reach him, never giving up hope that someday they would be reunited. Now it was his turn to fight, for Lily's health, for her happiness, and for the future Catherine had dreamed of but never lived to see. The diary had revealed the depth of Catherine's love and sacrifice. More importantly, it showed David the roadmap of hope she'd left behind, a guide for loving their daughter through any obstacle that lay ahead. The phone call that shattered their fragile peace came at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. David's publicist spoke, rapidly, barely concealing panic. David, the Chicago Tribune is running a front-page story. Morgan Financial executive abandons disabled daughter. Someone leaked the information, and they're painting you as a monster. David's blood turned to ice. How did they? Rachel Winters, the publicist confirmed grimly. She spoke to 3 different outlets. The story's already gone viral. By noon, news vans lined their driveway. David watched from the window as Lily saw the crowd for the first time, her face pale with confusion and fear. Are those people here because of me? She asked quietly. They're here because some people don't understand our story yet, David replied, kneeling to her level. But we're going to tell them the truth. At Morgan Financial, the emergency board meeting was brutal. Charles Westbrook, the chairman, delivered the ultimatum with cold precision. David, you need to step back until this scandal blows over. The company's stock has dropped 12% since this morning. My daughter is not a scandal, David replied icily. She's a 7-year-old who's been through hell. Be realistic, board member Patricia Hayes interjected. This looks terrible. A wealthy executive who abandons his child. Our clients are questioning our judgment. David stood slowly, his voice carrying quiet steel. I didn't abandon Lily. Someone I trusted blocked every attempt her mother made to reach me. I will not step down, and I will not hide my daughter because you're worried about stock prices. Then we'll have to consider a vote of no confidence, Westbrook threatened. Do what you feel you must, David replied. But I'm holding a press conference this afternoon to tell the real story. Against his publicist's desperate advice, David arranged the interview for their home's front lawn. He refused makeup, prepared statements, and insisted Lily be present if she chose. I want to be there, Lily said with surprising determination. Mama always said the truth makes people free. When the cameras rolled, David faced them directly, Lily in her wheelchair beside him, Emma holding her sister's hand. My name is David Morgan, and this is my daughter Lily, he began simply. 7 years ago, someone I trusted deliberately prevented me from knowing about her existence. Her mother, Catherine Williams, tried for nearly 2 years to reach me. She died 3 months ago, alone, and believing I had rejected them both. His voice cracked, but he continued. I failed my daughter, not through choice but through betrayal. I can't change the past, but I can control our future. Lily is not my situation to manage. She's my child, and she deserves every opportunity I can provide. A reporter shouted, What about the company's concerns? Any company that would ask me to hide my daughter's existence isn't worth leading, David replied firmly. Morgan Financial will be stronger because of what Lily has taught me about resilience and hope. When another reporter asked Lily how she felt about her new life, the 7-year-old surprised everyone by speaking directly into the microphone. My mama told me that sometimes good things come from sad things. She died, but I found my daddy and my sister. I think Mama would be happy. The raw honesty of a child speaking truth silenced the crowd. David felt his phone buzzing with messages, some supportive, others threatening. But as he looked down at Lily, who had just faced her greatest fear to defend their family, he realized the opinion that mattered most was hers. That evening, Walter approached David privately. Sir, the staff has been talking. We all want you to know. We stand with you and… Miss Lily, Mrs. Henderson is already planning to redecorate the playroom. The world might judge them, the board might revolt, and the media might continue its assault. But David had just learned something more valuable than any stock price. When you fight for love instead of image, you discover who your real allies are. While the media storm raged outside, a quieter battle was being fought within the walls of the Morgan mansion. Despite David's public declarations and the family's growing bond, Lily's deepest fears remained untouched by cameras and headlines. Mrs. Henderson noticed it first. She won't wear any of the new clothes you bought her, sir. Every morning she puts on those same worn-out things from her backpack. David found Lily in her room, carefully folding the beautiful dresses and sweaters he'd purchased back into their bags. Don't you like them, sweetheart? Lily's hand stilled. They're too expensive. What if you change your mind about keeping me? I can't take things that cost so much money. Lily, I'm not going to change my mind. That's what foster families always said. She interrupted, her voice barely audible. Before they found out how much my doctor visits cost. David's heart shattered. You were in foster care. Just for 2 weeks after Mama died. The Johnsons seemed nice at first, but when they saw the bills for my leg braces and physical therapy, she shrugged with devastating casualness. They said I was too expensive to keep. The revelation hit David like a physical blow. His daughter had learned to expect abandonment based on her medical costs. Lily, look at me. He waited until her fearful eyes met his. I have more money than we could spend in 10 lifetimes. Your medical care isn't a burden. It's a privilege to provide for you. But the damage was deeper than logic could heal. During Dr. Bennett's next session, Lily's anxiety manifested in heartbreaking ways. What if the surgery costs too much? She asked. What if I can't get better fast enough? What if I'm too broken to fix? That night, David overheard a heated phone conversation between his lawyer and the insurance company about coverage limits for Lily's upcoming procedures. The amounts being discussed were staggering. Multiple surgeries, years of rehabilitation, experimental treatments. What he didn't notice was Lily in the hallway, having wheeled herself out of bed for a glass of water. Her face went white as she heard phrases like exceeding policy limits and significant financial exposure. At 3 a.m., David woke to find Lily's bed empty. Panic seized him until he spotted movement in the garden. There she was, trying to drag herself toward the gate, her wheelchair abandoned on the porch. "Lily, what are you doing?" She collapsed on the wet grass, sobbing with exhaustion and despair. "I heard you talking about the money. I know I cost too much. I was trying to leave before you had to send me away." David gathered her into his arms, his own tears falling freely. "Oh, baby girl, I'm so sorry you heard that and thought." He held her tighter. "I wasn't worried about paying for your care. I was making sure we have the very best doctors no matter what it costs. But what if the company fires you because of me? What if we lose all your money?" "Then we'll figure it out together," David said fiercely. "Lily, I would live in a cardboard box before I would give you up. Do you understand me? There is no amount of money more important than having you in my life." They sat in the garden as dawn broke, David explaining his finances in terms a 7-year-old could understand. "I have enough money to take care of you, Emma, and your children's children. Your medical bills don't even make a dent." "Promise?" Lily whispered. "I promise. And from now on, if you hear me on the phone about anything that worries you, you come. Ask me immediately. No more carrying these fears alone." For the first time since arriving, Lily initiated a hug, a desperate, clinging embrace that spoke of a child finally allowing herself to believe she might be truly wanted. When Emma found them at breakfast, she took one look at her sister's puffy eyes and David's rumpled clothes and declared, "Bad dream night?" "The worst kind," David admitted. "But we're through it now." Emma nodded sagely. "That's what families do. We get through the scary stuff together." As Lily finally agreed to try on one of her new dresses, David realized that healing his daughter would require more than medical procedures. It would take time, patience, and proving every single day that love wasn't conditional on cost. The first day at Lakewood Academy marked a new chapter for both girls. Emma had insisted that Lily attend her private school, declaring, "We're sisters. We stick together." But the reality proved more challenging than Emma's optimistic vision. As David helped Lily from the car, whispers followed their path to the main building. Other parents stared with undisguised curiosity, their children pointing at the wheelchair with the thoughtless cruelty of youth. "Is that the girl from the news?" one mother asked another, not bothering to lower her voice. "The one who was abandoned?" Emma's jaw set with determination that mirrored her father's. She positioned herself protectively beside Lily's wheelchair and announced loudly, "Her name is Lily, and she's my sister." The first few classes went smoothly, but lunch brought inevitable challenges. In the cafeteria, Emma watched carefully as other children approached their table with varying degrees of curiosity and meanness. "Why can't you walk?" asked Tommy Fletcher, bluntly. Before Lily could answer, Madison Price, the class queen bee, delivered her verdict with surgical precision. "My mom says you used to be homeless. Is it true your mother was just a maid?" Lily's face flushed crimson, her hands gripping her lunch tray until her knuckles went white. Emma felt her sister's humiliation like a physical blow. "Your mom needs to learn some manners," Emma replied coolly. "My sister has more courage in her pinky finger than you have in your whole spoiled body," Madison sneered. "At least my parents wanted me from the beginning." The cafeteria fell silent. Lily's eyes filled with tears she refused to shed. But Emma's protective instincts exploded. "You know what the difference is between Lily and you?" Emma stood up, her 7-year-old voice carrying surprising authority. "Lily survived losing everything and still has room in her heart to be kind. You have everything and you're still mean. Who do you think is really lucky?" The teacher on duty arrived to defuse the situation, but the damage was done. Lily remained silent for the rest of the day, retreating into the shell Emma had worked so hard to help her escape. That evening, Emma found Lily staring out her bedroom window at the setting sun. "Are you okay?" Emma asked, settling beside her sister's wheelchair. "Madison was right," Lily whispered. "You were wanted from the day you were born. I was. A mistake that nobody knew about." Emma's heart broke for her sister. "Lily, look at me." She waited until Lily turned. "Do you think Daddy loves you less than me? Maybe. I cost more money and cause more problems. That's not how love works," Emma said with startling wisdom. "Daddy loved me when I was a baby and couldn't do anything but cry and mess my diaper. He loves you now even though you need special doctors. Love isn't about what you can do, it's about who you are." That night the girls developed their secret sister code. Emma taught Lily their special hand signals. Thumb and pinky up meant "I've got your back." Touching your heart meant family forever. And making a star with both hands meant Mom is watching over us. "We need to practice," Emma declared seriously. "Tomorrow, if Madison is mean again, I'll give you the "I've got your back" signal, and you'll know I'm ready to defend you." "What if I give you a signal?" Lily asked shyly. "What kind of signal?" "If I tap my nose twice, it means thank you for being my sister." "Deal." The next morning brought an unexpected test. During art class, when Lily struggled to reach the paint supplies from her wheelchair, several classmates rushed to help. Madison, perhaps chastened by yesterday's confrontation, quietly placed a brush within Lily's reach. "Thank you," Lily said, softly. Madison nodded awkwardly. "My grandma uses a wheelchair. She says it doesn't change who she is inside." At lunch, Lily caught Emma's eye and tapped her nose twice. Emma beamed and responded with the family forever heart touch. That afternoon, Emma made an announcement that surprised even David. "Daddy, I know what I want to be when I grow up." "What's that, sweetheart?" "A doctor who fixes kids' legs like Lily's, so no other sister has to hurt like mine did." As David tucked both girls in that night, Lily reached for his hand. "Daddy, I think I understand now why God let me be lost for so long." "Why's that, baby girl?" "So I could find Emma too. I always wanted a sister, and now I have the best one in the whole world." Emma grinned in the darkness. "The feeling's mutual, sis." Watching his daughters support each other through challenges he couldn't fully shield them from, David realized that sometimes the most beautiful families are forged not just through birth, but through the conscious choice to love and protect each other against a world that doesn't always understand. The annual Morgan family gathering at the Lake Geneva estate had always been a formal affair: crystal stemware, pressed linens, and conversations conducted in polite, measured tones. This year, however, David knew everything would be different. He was bringing Lily to meet the extended Morgan clan. Elizabeth Morgan, David's 78-year-old mother and undisputed family matriarch, greeted them at the grand entrance with her characteristic reserve. Her sharp blue eyes, so like David's, immediately settled on Lily with calculated assessment. "So this is the child," Elizabeth said, her voice neither warm nor cold, simply evaluating. Lily straightened in her wheelchair, meeting her grandmother's gaze with surprising composure despite the obvious nervousness in her hands. "Hello, Mrs. Morgan. Thank you for inviting me to your home." "Such manners," Elizabeth observed to David, though her tone revealed nothing of her thoughts. The afternoon tested everyone's patience. David's cousin Tyler, a perpetually unsuccessful investment banker, couldn't resist making pointed comments about sudden additions to the family tree and inheritance complications. His wife Rebecca whispered loudly about the scandal affecting the family name. But it was Tyler's teenage son Brad who pushed things too far during cocktail hour. "So, Lily," he said with mock casualness, "how does it feel to win the daddy lottery?" "From homeless to mansion, that's quite an upgrade." The room fell silent. Lily's face flushed, but before she could respond, 8-year-old cousin Michael, Tyler's younger son, accidentally knocked over his juice box, sending grape juice cascading across the Persian rug. Without hesitation, Lily wheeled herself over to help. "It's okay, Michael. Accidents happen to everyone," she said gently, using napkins to help clean up while other adults stood frozen in horror at the stain. "I'm sorry," Michael wailed. Grandma Elizabeth is going to be so mad. No, she won't, Lily assured him with remarkable confidence. My mama always said that people who love you care more about you than their things. Emma, who had been watching, from across the room deliberately picked up her own drink and accidentally spilled it directly onto Brad's designer sneakers. Oops, she said innocently. Looks like accidents are contagious today. Elizabeth Morgan had observed the entire exchange from her chair by the fireplace. She watched how Lily instinctively comforted a distressed child, how she showed grace under Brad's cruel comments, and how she demonstrated wisdom beyond her years. As the afternoon wore on, Elizabeth noticed other things. How Lily patiently helped elderly Uncle Robert find his reading glasses, how she listened attentively to Aunt Margaret's endless stories about her cats, and how she never once complained, despite obvious fatigue from the long day. The defining moment came when Cousin Tyler, emboldened by wine, made his most cutting remark yet. Let's be honest, David. This whole situation is about guilt, not love. You're overcompensating for your mistake, and it's affecting the entire family dynamic. Maybe it's time to consider alternative arrangements. The temperature in the room dropped perceptibly. David's face darkened with rage, but before he could respond, Elizabeth Morgan's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Tyler. Her tone could have frozen fire. You will apologize to my granddaughter immediately, and then you will remove yourself from my home. Mother. I was just... now. The single word carried decades of authority. As Tyler stammered through a humiliated apology and gathered his family to leave, Elizabeth approached Lily's wheelchair. The elderly woman reached into her jewelry box and withdrew a small emerald brooch, the same one she'd worn in her wedding portrait 60 years ago. This belonged to my mother, and her mother before that, Elizabeth said, pinning it gently to Lily's dress. You have the Morgan eyes, child. More importantly, you have the Morgan heart. Lily's eyes widened in wonder. But I've only been a Morgan for a few months. Blood doesn't make family, dear one. Character does. Elizabeth's stern facade softened for the first time all day. Welcome home, granddaughter. David watched from across the room, his throat tight with emotion. His mother, who had never shown favoritism, who had always maintained proper distance, had just claimed Lily as completely as if she'd been born into the family. That evening, as they prepared to leave, Lily wheeled herself back to Elizabeth. Grandma Elizabeth, can I ask you something? Of course, dear. Do you think my mama would be proud that I'm a Morgan now? Elizabeth knelt carefully beside the wheelchair, her arthritic hands gentle on Lily's face. Child, any mother would be proud to have raised such a remarkable daughter. Catherine Williams did an extraordinary job. As they drove home through the Illinois countryside, Emma was already planning their next visit. Grandma Elizabeth likes you better than Brad, she announced with satisfaction. She doesn't like anyone better than anyone, David corrected gently. She gave Lily the family brooch, Emma pointed out pragmatically. Brad never got the family brooch. In the rearview mirror, David saw Lily touching the emerald pin with reverence, finally beginning to understand that she truly belonged somewhere, not as a charity case or a burden, but as a cherished member of a family that would fight to protect her. 4 months after coming home, Lily finally felt safe enough to share her most guarded secret. On a quiet Sunday morning, she approached David in his study, clutching a small tin box that had never left her possession. Daddy, I want to show you something, she said softly, but you have to promise not to be sad. David set aside his reading and gave her his full attention. I promise to handle whatever you share with the love it deserves. With trembling fingers, Lily opened the dented tin that had survived their months of homelessness. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper yellow, with age lay her most precious treasures. Mama kept this box under her bed, Lily explained. She said it was our hope chest, full of dreams for when you found us. The first item was a hospital bracelet from Lily's birth, tiny and faded. Beneath it, a lock of baby hair tied with a pink ribbon. Then came the photographs, blurry phone pictures of Lily's first smile, first tooth, first attempt to crawl. But it was Catherine's hidden journal that made David's breath catch. Unlike the diary Lily had already shared, this one contained letters Catherine had written but never sent. Years' worth of messages to a man she'd never stopped believing would love their daughter. "Dear David," Lily said Dada today. "I know she was talking about you even though you've never heard her voice. I recorded it on my phone. Someday when you meet her, I'll play it for you. Dear David, Lily's teacher says she's gifted in mathematics, just like her father. She solved puzzles today that most kids her age can't even attempt. You would be so proud." The most heartbreaking entry was dated on Lily's 6th birthday. "Dear David, today Lily asked why you don't come to her birthday parties. I told her that sometimes the people we love most are far away, but that doesn't mean they don't love us. She made a drawing of our family and asked me to save it for when you come home. I'm including it in our hope chest. Maybe someday." David unfolded the carefully preserved drawing with shaking hands. 3 stick figures stood in front of a house with a rainbow overhead. Daddy, Mama, and Lily were written in a child's uncertain letters. At the bottom, in Catherine's handwriting, Lily's dream family, age 6. "She never stopped believing you'd come," Lily whispered, watching David's tears fall onto the paper. "Even when the other kids said I was making up stories about having a rich daddy, Mama said believing in love was never wrong." The box held more treasures. A tiny wooden horse David had carved for Emma years ago that Catherine had somehow kept, a pressed flower from Sarah's funeral bouquet, and at the very bottom a USB drive labeled, "For Daddy's Eyes Only," from Lily, age 7. David inserted the drive into his laptop with trembling hands. Lily's face appeared on screen, noticeably thinner than when he'd found her, recorded just weeks before Catherine's death. "Hi, Daddy," 7-year-old Lily said to the camera. "Mama is really sick and she made me promise to make this video in case you find it someday. I want you to know that I'm not mad you didn't know about me. Mama explained that sometimes grown-ups have communication problems." The child on screen paused, choosing her words carefully. "I hope when you see this you won't be too sad about Mama. She's the best mama in the whole world, but she's tired from taking care of me. I try not to be too much trouble, but my legs need special doctors and we don't have enough money." Lily's recorded voice grew smaller. "If you're watching this, it means Mama went to heaven and you found me somehow. I just want you to know that I love you even though we never met. Mama showed me your picture every night and told me stories about how smart and kind you are." The video ended with tiny Lily holding up Catherine's engagement ring, a simple band David had never seen before. "Mama wanted you to have this back. She said you gave it to her when I was in her tummy, but she never got to give it back when she had to leave." David stared at the screen in confusion. "Lily, I never gave your mother an engagement ring." Lily dug deeper into the box and produced the delicate band. "She said you put it on her finger the night I was made, and told her you wanted to marry her someday when you weren't so sad about Emma's mama." The memory hit David like a lightning bolt. That night, 8 years ago, in his grief-stricken haze, he had indeed proposed to Catherine in a moment of desperate loneliness. He barely remembered it. The alcohol, the tears, the desperate desire to not be alone with his pain. Catherine had accepted, knowing he wasn't thinking clearly, and had left the next morning to give him space to grieve properly. She'd kept the ring as a symbol of a love that might have been, in a different time, under different circumstances. "She loved you so much, Daddy," Lily said softly. She used to say that maybe in heaven the 3 of us could be a real family. That afternoon, David helped Lily create a proper memorial corner in her room. They arranged Catherine's treasures with reverence: photos, letters, the engagement ring in a place of honor, and the stick figure drawing framed in silver. "Thank you for sharing this with me," David said, kissing Lily's forehead. "Your mama was right about one thing. We are a real family, just not the way she imagined." "Better," Lily replied with sudden certainty, "because now I have you and Emma. Mama would say that's a bonus miracle. 3 weeks after Lily's first successful corrective surgery, she made a request that caught David completely off guard. "Daddy, I want to visit Mama's grave," she said quietly during breakfast. "I need to tell her about the operation and about you and Emma." David's chest tightened. He'd been dreading this moment, knowing how difficult it would be for Lily and for himself. "Of course, sweetheart, whenever you're ready." "I'm ready now," she replied with the same quiet determination that had carried her through months of physical therapy. What David discovered about Catherine's burial arrangements filled him with shame and regret. She'd been laid to rest in Graceland, cemetery's pauper section, a simple grave marked only with a temporary plastic placard bearing her name and dates. David spent the next week working in secret with the cemetery's monument specialist. When they arrived at Graceland on Saturday morning, Lily gasped at the transformation. Where the plastic marker had been, a beautiful granite headstone now stood, engraved with Catherine's name, and a message David had carefully chosen. Catherine Williams, beloved mother, whose love transcended every obstacle. Below her dates, a smaller inscription read, "She taught our daughter to believe in miracles, and her faith made one come true." Lily sat in her wheelchair for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. Then she pulled out a carefully written letter from her purse. "Dear Mama," she read aloud, her voice steady despite her tears. "I found Daddy, just like you always said I would. He's everything you told me he would be. Kind and smart, and he loves me so much. Emma is the sister I always dreamed about. She protects me at school and makes me laugh when I'm scared." She paused, wiping her eyes. "The doctors say my legs are getting stronger. Daddy says money doesn't matter, only getting better matters. I think you would like our house. It's big, but it feels warm now, like homes are supposed to feel." Emma stepped forward and placed her own small bouquet beside Lily's. "Thank you for taking such good care of my sister until Daddy could find her," she said simply. "I promise we'll love her forever." David remained respectfully back, giving the girls their private moment. But as they prepared to leave, Lily called to him. "Daddy, would you say something to Mama? She'd want to hear from you." David approached the grave with humility that had been earned through months of understanding the depth of Catherine's sacrifice. "Catherine," he began, his voice rough with emotion, "I don't know if you can hear me, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. Sorry I didn't fight harder to find you. Sorry I trusted the wrong people. Sorry our daughter had to suffer because of my failures." He knelt beside the headstone, placing his hand on the cool granite. "But I want you to know that Lily is everything you raised her to be. Brave, kind, intelligent, and full of love despite everything she's endured. You did an extraordinary job raising our daughter. I hope I can be half the parent to her that you were." On the drive home, Lily was unusually quiet until she suddenly spoke up. "Daddy, I want to do something to help other kids like me." "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "Kids whose mamas are sick and can't afford the special doctors. Mama always said if we ever had extra, we should help people who were like us." David met her eyes in the rearview mirror. "What are you thinking? Could we start something? Like a foundation? For mamas and kids who need help with medical stuff but don't have money?" Emma's face lit up. "That's a perfect idea. We could call it the Catherine Foundation." "The Catherine Williams Foundation," Lily corrected softly. "So everyone knows it's named after the bravest mama who ever lived." That evening, David made phone calls to his lawyers and financial advisors. Within days, the Catherine Williams Foundation was established with an initial endowment that would help hundreds of families facing the same impossible choices Catherine had faced. The foundation's mission statement, written with Lily's input, read, "To ensure that no child's medical needs go unmet due to financial barriers, and no parent faces impossible choices between their child's health and basic survival." At the foundation's quiet inaugural ceremony a month later, held in the mansion's garden, Lily cut the ribbon from her wheelchair. The first recipient was Mrs. Martinez's grandson, who needed surgery for a heart defect his family couldn't afford. "Mama always said that love makes more love," Lily told the small gathering. "Now her love is going to help lots of families stay together." As David watched his daughter transform her own pain into purpose, he realized that Catherine's greatest gift wasn't just Lily herself. It was the example of how love could overcome any obstacle, survive any separation, and ultimately heal wounds that seemed impossible to mend. The foundation would grow to help thousands, but its true power lay in teaching one little girl that her suffering had meaning, and that her mother's love would continue saving lives long after Catherine Williams had gone home to rest. 6 months had transformed the Morgan mansion from a silent monument to grief into a vibrant home filled with laughter, music, and the beautiful chaos of childhood. The formal dining room now hosted tea parties with stuffed animals. The pristine living room bore the cheerful scars of art projects and board games. Most remarkably, David's study, once his sanctuary from the world, had become homework central, where 2 determined girls tackled mathematics and Emma practiced reading aloud to Lily. The physical changes in Lily were remarkable. Her second surgery had been even more successful than the first, and Dr. Peterson was cautiously optimistic about her long-term prognosis. During her morning physical therapy sessions, Lily could now stand with minimal support for nearly 10 minutes, a milestone that brought tears to everyone's eyes. But the emotional transformation was even more profound. At school, Lily had blossomed into an unexpected leader. Her natural empathy, forged in the crucible of loss and hardship, drew other children to her. When new student Marcus arrived mid-semester, clearly struggling with his parents' divorce, it was Lily who befriended him first. "Sometimes grown-ups have problems that aren't our fault," she told him with wisdom far beyond her 8 years. "But that doesn't mean we're not loved." Her teachers were amazed by her writing abilities. English. Teacher Mrs. Patterson had never seen such emotionally mature work from a 3rd grader. Lily's essay titled "The Day I Found My Family" had moved the entire faculty to tears and was selected for the school's literary magazine. Emma, inspired by her sister's resilience, had announced her career plans with characteristic determination. "I'm going to be an orthopedic surgeon like Dr. Peterson," she declared, "but specifically for kids so no other sister has to hurt like Lily did." She'd begun checking out medical textbooks from the library, though David had to gently explain that basic human anatomy might be a bit advanced for a 2nd grader. The school's annual talent show provided an unexpected showcase for both girls: growth. While other children performed traditional songs or dances, Lily had chosen to write and recite an original poem. Emma insisted on accompanying her sister on stage, not as a performer, but as her official assistant. Standing at the microphone, Lily's clear voice filled the auditorium. "I used to think that broken things could never be made whole, that missing pieces meant you'd always have an empty hole. But then I learned that families aren't just the ones you're born to find. Sometimes the best ones are the ones that choose to be kind. My mama taught me that love travels, even when we're apart, and now I know she sent me people to share her loving heart. So if you're feeling broken, or lost, or all alone, remember that love finds a way to guide you safely home." The standing ovation lasted nearly 5 minutes. David, watching from the audience with tears streaming down his face, saw Dr. Bennett in the crowd, applauding just as enthusiastically. Later, she would tell him, "That child has achieved remarkable emotional integration. The trauma that could have destroyed her has instead become her greatest strength." The evening's most touching moment came when Lily returned to her seat after her performance. Madison Price, the same girl who had been cruel months earlier, approached hesitantly. "Lily, that was beautiful," she said quietly. "I'm sorry I was mean to you before. I was jealous because you seemed so much braver than me." "Thank you, Madison," Lily replied graciously. "Being brave isn't about not being scared. It's about doing the right thing even when you are scared." As they drove home that night, Emma chattering excitedly about her sister's triumph, David reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The man who had found a broken little girl on a street corner was gone, replaced by someone who understood that healing required patience, that love demanded consistency, and that sometimes the most beautiful flowers grew from the deepest soil of pain. "Daddy," Lily said from the back seat, interrupting his thoughts, "do you think Mama saw me tonight?" "I think she sees you every day, sweetheart," David replied. and I think she's so proud of the amazing young lady you're becoming." "Good," Lily said with satisfaction, "because I have something really exciting to tell her tomorrow." "What's that?" "Dr. Peterson says if my next surgery goes well, I might be able to walk without any help by my 9th birthday. And Emma and I are planning a huge party to celebrate, for both of us because she's been with me every step of the way." In the rearview mirror, David saw his daughters holding hands, already planning their celebration. The image crystallized everything he'd learned. That redemption doesn't erase the past but transforms it into something beautiful. That love, given freely and consistently, could indeed work miracles. And that sometimes, the family you think you've lost forever is actually just waiting for you to find it. 1 year after that life-changing encounter on a Chicago street corner, the Morgan family prepared for 2 celebrations that would forever change their lives. The autumn sun streamed through the mansion's windows as David adjusted his tie nervously, watching Lily practice walking across the living room. Her 3rd surgery had been a complete success. Dr. Peterson had called it remarkable beyond all expectations, and today, Lily's 9th birthday, she would take her first completely independent step since early childhood. But first came the morning's legal ceremony. Judge Margaret Hoffman, a family friend, had agreed to conduct the adoption proceedings in their home rather than a sterile courtroom. "Lily Catherine Williams," Judge Hoffman said formally, "do you understand that you're choosing to become Lily Catherine Morgan permanently?" "Yes, Your Honor," Lily replied with dignity far beyond her 9 years. "I've been a Morgan in my heart since the day Daddy found me. Now it's just official. The papers were signed with witnesses including Mrs. Martinez, now a permanent part of their extended family, Walter, Mrs. Henderson, and Dr. Bennett, who had become more friend than therapist. I now pronounce you officially and legally Lily Catherine Morgan," Judge Hoffman declared. "Welcome to your forever family, sweetheart." Emma whooped with joy. "Now nobody can ever say you don't belong here." As afternoon approached, friends and family gathered in the garden for Lily's birthday celebration. The Catherine Williams Foundation had sent a beautiful arrangement with a card reading, "To our founder's daughter, may your steps forward honor her memory." But the moment everyone had been waiting for came as the sun began to set. Dr. Peterson had given final clearance that morning. Lily could attempt walking without any assistance. David knelt 20 feet away from where Lily stood beside her wheelchair, Emma holding her hand for support. "Are you ready, birthday girl?" David called softly. Lily nodded, her face a mixture of determination and anticipation. She released Emma's hand and stood alone, wobbling slightly but holding steady. "I can do this," she whispered to herself, then louder. "Mama, this is for you." The first step was tentative, her leg trembling with effort and uncertainty. The second step was stronger. By the 3rd step, confidence began to bloom across her features. Step by step, slowly but steadily, Lily Catherine Morgan walked across the garden into her father's waiting arms. The small crowd erupted in cheers and tears, but Lily only had eyes for David. "I did it, Daddy," she whispered against his shoulder. "I really did it." "You did it, sweetheart," David replied, his voice thick with emotion. "You did something incredible." Emma rushed over to join their embrace. "This is the best birthday present ever." As the celebration continued around them, David found himself looking up at the darkening sky, where the first stars were beginning to appear. "What are you thinking about?" Lily asked, following his gaze. "Your mama," David replied honestly, "and your other mama, Sarah. I think they're both watching us tonight." "I know they are," Lily said with certainty. "Emma and I look for them every night. They're the 2 brightest stars right next to each other, watching over our family." Emma nodded sagely. "Mama Catherine probably told Mama Sarah all about us by now. They're probably best friends in heaven." Later that evening, after the last guests had gone home and the girls were finally in bed, David sat alone in his study, surrounded by photographs that told their story. Pictures of Lily's first day home, her first smile, her first successful therapy session. Images of Emma teaching her sister to play chess, both girls covered in flour from a disastrous baking attempt, family portraits that grew progressively more natural and joyful. On his desk sat Catherine's engagement ring in a place of honor, along with Lily's original stick figure drawing of their family. Beside them, a new photo from today, Lily taking her first independent steps, arms outstretched toward her father, pure joy radiating from every feature. The tragedy that had once defined his life, Sarah's death, Catherine's struggle, Lily's years of abandonment, had been transformed into something beautiful and purposeful. The Catherine Williams Foundation now helped hundreds of families avoid the desperate choices Catherine had faced. His daughters, bound by choice rather than just blood, had taught him that love multiplied when shared freely. A soft knock interrupted his reflections. Lily stood in the doorway in her pajamas, walking steadily on her own. "Daddy?" I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Mama Catherine and what she would say if she could see us now. David opened his arms and Lily walked into his embrace with the same determination she'd shown all day. "What do you think she would say?" David asked. Lily considered carefully. "I think she'd say that sometimes the most beautiful families grow from the saddest beginnings, and that love always finds a way home." As David tucked his daughter back into bed, he realized that Lily was absolutely right. They hadn't just survived their broken beginnings. They had transformed them into something magnificent, a family united not by perfection, but by the courage to love despite life's hardest challenges. The little girl who had once been lost was now home. And in finding her, David had discovered that redemption wasn't about erasing the past. It was about transforming it into a foundation for hope.